You built up $2 million in real estate, and then you dumped everything. You sold it all?
We sold at a really good time right around the 2022 area. So we sold at the right time, bought Bitcoin at the right time. We have nothing but tailwinds in front of us. The president wants it. They're voting on laws. I mean, his son has Bitcoin companies that they're buying. Grant Cardone's piling in now. We got things happening.
Do you think the Clarity Act is that important for you? Is that a big momentum swinger for you?
I don't like the price being manipulated on my dime. You know what I mean? That really upsets me because I believe in Bitcoin, but a few people really have a lot of the coins that control a lot of the market. If you have IBIT is not technically Bitcoin. It's still a stock. So you cannot wash trade IBIT. I've made tons of money on Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. I've lost a bunch of money in some ways too. They have a huge amount of Bitcoin, so they're the first mover advantage. If this thing starts to rocket, that stock is going to take off. When he did that interview and he said, I told you not to sell your Bitcoin. I never said we weren't going to sell it. That honestly broke my heart as someone who was a big Michael Saylor fan. But you know what? Life isn't about money. And I have someone who had 4 jobs at one point. I think money magnifies what's going on in your heart. And I think a lot of times it's not always a mind issue, it's a heart issue. Because out of the mouth, the heart speaks. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail, they say, right? So, or plan your work and then work your plan.
This episode is brought to you by MicroSeed, the smartest way to back up your seed phrase. All right, listen up, Bitcoiners. Your keys, your coins, but is your seed phrase truly safe? Introducing MicroSeed, the smartest way to store your 12 or 24 word seed phrase. Stamp your entire seed phrase on one tiny, indestructible washer. Titanium or stainless steel. Waterproof, fireproof, crush-proof. Small enough to hide anywhere. No guesswork, precise alignment, built to last forever. If your seed phrase is on a piece of paper, that seed phrase can get destroyed easily. With MicroSeed, you get an entire kit to stamp your seed phrase onto this washer. It comes with everything you need, from a hammer to the washers to the stamper. It's never been easier before. Take real self-custody and protect what matters. It's time to take control of your own seed phrase with MicroSeed. Use code TBB, as in the Bitcoin broadcast, TBB, for a discount. Go to microseed.io. For the link, go to the description below. All right, welcome to the Bitcoin broadcast. Today we've got on Nick Masi. Thank you for joining me, man. How are you doing today?
I'm excited to be here, man. We're talking Bitcoin and everything in between. So it's a great day. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. For my audience, do you mind giving a little bit about your background, your history, what you do, stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So I'm a teacher, and I was a 20-year basketball coach. I coached for high school, college. I coached for Nike, coached actually 3 professional players. I love teaching. I've been doing that and working with children for 20 years. And I'm currently teaching high school history and personal finance. Super exciting stuff, things I love to teach. But while I was doing that, I decided I wanted more than just my paycheck, as I have a couple kids and a beautiful, amazing wife. So I decided I wanted to do real estate because I kind of latched on to everything that was going on with that. So I started investing. I got some rental properties, small multifamily, right? I got a duplex. I got a single family that I built an ADU on, which is like a separate housing unit. And I started renting them out. Eventually I sold, I had $2 million worth of real estate, sold it all and bought Bitcoin with it, right? At a pretty good time. And fortunately I was able to ride most of that wave up to that 126 level. Very exciting. And then as it kind of went down, I sold some of it around 107K and bought some into Stretch, bought some into Tesla, different things. You know what I mean? I like stocks. Try to go more conservative when you make a bunch of money like that on a windfall. Start throwing in the S&P 500 and other things. I still love Bitcoin. I love all the properties of it, but I also believe in things like the 4-year cycle too.
Okay, dang. I have a lot of questions just based off of that. So first of all, that's really cool that you being a teacher. That's a tough job. And I've harped on education on this podcast before about, education it seems to be a kind of a picky topic because everyone complains that education's going down and teachers don't get paid enough. And I'm like, well, look who runs education. And I don't know, kind of follow the money through there. And I don't know if you've gone down the rabbit hole of like Rockefeller and all that stuff, but sure. It's a good on you, man. History, is that that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
What do you
I
teach
love
in
history.
history?
Yeah, I love history. I actually teach AP history, which is kind of like a college course, if you get credits for that. So it's something, it's actually AP world history. My family and I, we just went on this $60,000 7-week European vacation with, Bitcoin money, dividends, and everything else. It's been great. And it's pretty cool to be like an everyday teacher to an everyday millionaire. You know what I mean? I started my own YouTube channel, Lead Pray HODL, because I wanted to talk about things like leadership, faith and prayer, and Bitcoin and finance, man. So it's been super excited. I'm actually lucky because I had such great teachers growing up that I just love so much the way they made it feel like a family atmosphere that I actually teach where I used to go to high school. So it's cool walking down those halls, having the keys, and giving back to the community. That's really what I'm all about. That's really what YouTube is, if you think about it. You're teaching people, you're talking about things you love, and you're hoping that it changes lives one video at a time. And that's what I'm about. Community.
That's awesome, man. I love that. That's so cool. All right, I got to ask you though. So you built up $2 million in real estate, and then you dumped everything. You sold it all?
Yeah. So my wife actually got her real estate license because we wanted to expand and continue to get more rental properties. So I figured let's get a little bit off the buy and a little bit off the sell sometimes too. So she got her license. So after she got her license, especially, we started to really notice things like the moratorium in LA County. You can't make people pay their rent if they can't afford it because of COVID or different things. And everybody kind of hates landlords here, it seems like, at least in California. I don't know about the rest of the country. So it kind of made me nervous. I was worried about having to cover mortgages if people didn't pay anymore, or just the different landlord laws that were happening, whether it was in LA County or others. So we made a conscious decision. I said, I see this wave coming on Bitcoin because of its supply and demand properties, just like, properties are. And she was all on board with me, which is pretty awesome. She trusts me so much with our finances and money. I guess I've never let her down. So that's been nice. And we decided to scrap that plan, sell it all. We sold at a really good time right around the 2022 area. So it was pretty good because obviously interest rates have started to go up. Housing affordability is going down. Less buyers in the market isn't good for sellers. You know what I mean? So we sold at the right time, bought Bitcoin at the right time. Not the perfect time. I'd love to go back 13 years ago and buy it for 3,000 or something, or $3, I should say. But it's been exciting stuff. And most importantly, we want to get into real estate again, but it's going to be more in like the Charlotte area. We like the more country living a little bit, that you could enjoy maybe part of your farm, could enjoy the city life that's clean. And because it's the Bible Belt, we really love that part as well. So,
All right, I got to ask then. So you went into Bitcoin. So
yeah.
what was like the big thing? Was it purely like did you fall in love with kind of number go up first, or was it like kind of like you fall in love with number go up and then it's you stay for the revolution? Or because if you held on until up into the 120, sold at 107,
Yeah.
and then now obviously we're down at like 63 or whatever. So good sell on you. Like I haven't sold any. So what made you transition? What was the main thing that made you transition to Bitcoin? And then why did you sell? Was it mainly like the 4-year period type thing? But I'll let you explain.
No, actually. So one of the reasons I got into Bitcoin was one of my teachers that teaches economics on our campus. Guy's a genius, man. I'm telling you. And he read all the Bitcoin books and he orange pilled me. He started talking to me about the properties. I knew a little bit about it. I understood the concepts. And as I learned more and deep dove into it and talked to him daily about it, and I was seeing, like I said, the landlord laws and the attitudes toward them, I was like, you know what? I think it might be time. So he really orange pilled me into loving Bitcoin so much. And that's why I made the change. But why I sold, and this is a tip for all the viewers here, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're probably not going to believe me, but it's true. Bitcoin people like to only believe in Bitcoin. So they're very bullish all the time, and for a lot of great reasons, but they're very biased, and their bias can really impact their ability to trade or whatever. So what I watch is people that do charts like chartists, TA, technical analysis, that are not Bitcoin people. So I found some. I understand how to read the charts myself as well, but I also found some others to make sure I'm not losing my mind, because I didn't want to sell any Bitcoin, but I was watching the chartist and they're talking about, they're drawing it on the charts. on YouTube and different things. And I was like, you know what? I agree with that. I see weakness. I see a change in the wash trade rules compared to regular stocks based on the laws. And I decided to get out because I kind of watched these unbiased people talk about it, and they were right on a lot of things. So I followed that trend, and I was lucky. I was correct in it. I have bought back in sometimes, and it's went down, of course, because my own bias and love for Bitcoin is like it's going to go up forever. But one of the best things you could do is just get around other people that are wise and unbiased and don't have that emotional attachment to having to be right, and that really helped me a lot.
Dang. Yeah, I mean, hindsight, I've been here long enough that I should know, right? The 4-year cycles. It's like it was right on cue. It followed it to a T pretty much. And it's everyone was like, 4-year cycles are breaking. And I know that's going to be controversial on this because that pissed a lot of people off is, oh no, the 4-year cycles, they're done. They're broken. Like we're going up, we're hitting 250. And that was like a big thing. And honestly, I kind of fell into it again. And I was like, I can't see myself selling because I believe in it so much. The one time, if I try and time the stupid market, it's going to happen and it's going to go up to like 250 and I'm going to be pissed that I sold any. So we'll see what happens this next cycle. I haven't decided yet on what exactly I'm going to do. If we just keep doing the 4-year cycle, I don't know. I might take some profits, might not sure. So I think that's good on you, man. Like, congrats on that. How did you get into investing? Like, how did you learn to read the charts and stuff?
YouTube. I just literally studied it like crazy. Now I have, I got a master's degree, so I understand economics, supply and demand and everything else. But I started to really watch chartists and see what they were looking at because I want to know why. You know what I mean? I don't want to just be told like a robot what to do and trust people with my money that I don't even know. So I tried to learn it all and go from there. And that's really helped me. And even I didn't really agree with the 4-year cycle when we were up at 120, 126. I was like, man, there is no reason this is going down. And we got wiped out on October 10th or whatever it was, right? In October. And it came out of nowhere. And I was so blindsided by it. I said, how's this possible? We have nothing but tailwinds in front of us. The president wants it. They're voting on laws. I mean, his son has Bitcoin companies that they're buying. Grant Cardone's piling in now. We got things happening. And I was like, what is the why? And what I saw and what I believed was the wash trade rules, the casino, they had to get all those people that were leveraging. I started watching the heat maps and looking at the yellow lines to see where people are 50x, 100x leverage. And there's no way they're going to let that just go up at 100x leverage. So they wiped all those people out in a day, and they've done it a couple times now where they make you think it's coming back and then they wipe you out again. So I really watched the heat map charts and I asked myself, how is this happening and why? Because there was nothing, there was no indicators. And now maybe we're at the 4-year cycle and that was it. But for me, it really, I didn't understand why it went down. So when it went down, I was still a little stubborn. I sold at 107 and I was like, you know what? Something's off. And I told myself, I'm not going to get back in until at least the Clarity Act is back in because, what happens is they can't wash trade, and now I could trust people, with the markets and everything else. So we'll see.
Okay, so you said you've bought in a little bit back in, but you're not fully back in allocated yet.
No, not at all. And I have no plans to. I am a little interested on what happens like on September 15th during the Clarity Act vote. Are they going to get the votes? I'm watching the poly market. It's at like 19% chance right now, which is pretty shocking. So I sometimes those things, somebody has some insider information. So that's one tip I would kind of look at something like that. But I'm not fully in, and I probably won't jump back in until like the October 4-year cycle thing as well. If I see that it's still playing out and there's no break in the chain, then I'll probably jump back in. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. Do you think the Clarity Act is that important for you? Is that a big momentum swinger for you?
For me, it's just the wash trading rules. That's why it was illegal, right? You couldn't sell at a loss and buy back in for 30 days. Whereas these people that are really, I think, Binance and these other ones that have these massive supplies of coins could just really sell them, buy them back in for cheaper, or move them from exchange and off exchange, right? And manipulate the price. And I don't like the price being manipulated on at my dime. You know what I mean? That really upsets me because I believe in Bitcoin, but a few people really have a lot of the coins that control a lot of the market. So just like they disallowed it in stocks, I'm waiting for them to disallow it into Bitcoin, and then I'll feel a lot better investing, knowing at least that's something that I could feel a little safer about. And I'm interested to see what happens on those leveraged casino markets. Like, do people stop putting in leverage, or do they double up and go down? That's what. So I watch those a lot. But the only reason I want the Clarity Act is just for the wash trade things. Other than that, I think Bitcoin still has all the great properties of itself, and I believe it's going to go up and things of that nature. But I think it will fast track it by passing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honest, I'm not a big Clarity Act guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
I follow it, of course. I'm like, when are they going to pass it? Because once they pass it, overall, I think it's good, I guess, for the markets. I don't think Bitcoin needs it. Bitcoin doesn't need the U.S. government to tell it that it's okay to trade. I think it will do exactly what it needs to do. It's just a matter of time. And I hear you, dude. It's so frustrating when you see almost pure manipulation of markets. But they kind of do it with everything. Like they do it with gold, they do it with silver, they do it with, I don't know real estate that well, but I'm assuming they do it with real estate. They do it with your interest rates. They manipulate it, and your CPI, and then they base that off of manipulated data. They kind of manipulate everything, right?
Yes and no. I mean, they have different levers the Fed can to maneuver the interest rates to cool the housing and obviously speed up the economy. So they're but I don't know if those are as much manipulation as I see some little nonsense report of MSTR selling 32 Bitcoin, and the whole damn Bitcoin drops by $20,000 because they sold 2 quarters. You know what I mean? Like, compared to their stack. That's just full blown manipulation to me. And now they sell a couple thousand Bitcoin and it stays flat. Nothing happens. So for me, I just don't like that. I thought it was pretty wild, such a thing. But I totally get you. I think Bitcoin doesn't need the Clarity Act. I just like it for the wash trading rules. I could care less
Still
about
there?
anything else.
Okay, we are back. So if you didn't notice, his sentence got completely cut off. He lost his Wi-Fi. It cut out for multiple hours. And so we're actually recording this on a separate day. So I apologize if we say anything that we already talked about in the first 15 minutes of this, but we're going to pick it up to where we kind of left off. So we were talking about the Clarity Act and wash trading. If you kind of want to start over a little bit again about why the Clarity Act is important to you to pass before you kind of jump back into Bitcoin, and why wash trading and leverage and stuff kind of bugs you so much.
Yeah, so a big thing in stocks that you cannot do is a wash trade. As I mentioned, you could sell your stocks for a gain and buy back in at any time, and that's not a big deal. But if you sell it for a loss and you jump back in within 30 days, you cannot write off that loss for the year. You just go right back into the price action until you hold it and sell for over 30 days. Hopefully you're selling for a gain, but sometimes, like we've seen in Bitcoin, where they're selling the coins or moving them off exchanges and manipulating the price, and then they buy them back in for cheaper, they swipe all the leverage from those people that are doing 10x, 20x, 50x, 100x, and they buy it right back. Well, you could do that here. Even right now, those of you that have Bitcoin, if you bought for some reason at 125 and it's down here at 64, if you want to sell it today, and I'm not giving you financial advice, but sell it today and buy it right back later, an hour, 10 minutes later, and you could literally put that on your taxes as a loss for right now. That's what could happen right now. And I did taxes for 7 years. I understand how the wash trading works, especially. A lot of people don't even know about it. A lot of traders are kind of still learning about it, or maybe you don't mess with, you don't really invest that much, so you don't notice. But when you start getting into hundreds of thousands or millions, a wash trade is a really big deal. If you could write off $2 million loss on your taxes because you gained $3 million on some other stock you want to sell. and you don't have to pay taxes on it because you could wash it out. So there's different ways to do that. And that's why they don't want to manipulate the price. Say you're Warren Buffett, you have so many shares of some stock that you could sell 37 billion in one swipe, change the whole price down, and then rebuy it back for cheaper. They don't want that happening. So it's just not the case when it comes to Bitcoin or crypto in general. So one of the things about the Clarity Act is supposed to get rid of that and not allow wash trading. So that's why it's a big deal if it becomes law and goes through. Until there's some changes, maybe with the SEC or something else. I think for me, it's one of the biggest things I feel safer about. I think banks will feel safer about, and other big investors and funds, if they know that somebody can't just manipulate the price anytime they want to. I think that's going to be a big deal. So that's why I'm waiting for more investment as that's getting through. And maybe it's next month, maybe it's not. I see Polymarket and others, they say 19% chance, 10% chance, then it goes up to 35. So I don't know what the real case is going to be, but when it goes through, which I believe it will, I just think it speeds up the process for bigger money to invest. I think Bitcoin's fine either way, but I love it to be fast tracked to make more money as fast as possible. That's the way I like to roll. And I'm sure most of the viewers do.
Okay. Yeah, I think I said this before, but once the Clarity Act passes, I do think it'll help bigger fish come in. Of course, there always has to be regulation, right? It's going to happen no matter what. I have my opinion about the fact that Trump is very positive about crypto. So I would rather see something like this pass while it's positive for Bitcoin and crypto. I know they lump them together and we all kind of hate that. I think it should be separate, but it is lumped together. It is what it is. So I think passing something like this would be great if they could do it before the midterms. I would enjoy that, and I think other people will come in as well. The wash trading, now, I have an opinion about this. I was thinking about it. I love the fact, because I already did it this year, where all my buys last year that were like above 100K, I already, at the beginning of this year when we were down, I already sold and just rebought back literally like 5 minutes later. So I kind of did my own like wash trade. It's like, it's a loss for my taxes. So it kind of helps the little guys like me, but I do agree. I hate it how they can manipulate price. I don't know if they'll be able to control manipulation with paper Bitcoin. I'm not smart enough to be able to sit here and tell you like, dude, like paper Bitcoin out there, futures contracts, people that hold 80,000 Bitcoin, like that one whale who dropped the price, a little bit. So we'll see what happens with that. But having the Clarity Act go through will give more clarity for the bigger players, which I think is cool. So
yeah, one of the things to piggyback, just so people know, one of the toughest things in Bitcoin as well is you can wash trade it, but here's the tough part a little bit is there is a fee, that gets you on that whatever percent fee, 0.07 or whatever it is. It actually changes if you're on Robinhood or something else. You can see the fee change depending on how much you're selling or putting through or whatever. But so there's a fee on the buy and there's a fee on the sell. So in this case, if you already bought it, you're going to pay a fee to sell it, to wash it, and then you're going to pay a fee to rebuy back again. So just keep that as some of the percentage of expectations, knowing that there is a fee. You do lose some money in that. And if you have IBIT is not technically Bitcoin. It's still a stock. So you cannot wash trade IBIT. So be careful whether you're selling the actual spot Bitcoin versus some derivative like IBIT.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, always do your math first. I calculated how much I would have to sell and buy with the fees to be able to, so it was worth it is what I'm trying to say is I made sure that I wasn't just selling Bitcoin and taking like their $400 fee if you sell, like $4,000 or whatever. I forget what the fee was, but yeah, I sold it X amount of Bitcoin. They hit me with the fee and it's like, oh, that sucks. I lost a couple $100 worth of Bitcoin, but I bought Bitcoin back just to make sure my stack was back to where it was. And so in the end, it was worth it for me because now I can write that bigger chunk off. But I agree. Thanks for pointing that out.
Well, and the more you have, the more expensive it is because
Yes.
it's usually a percentage, not a number, which
Yeah.
sucks. I'd love to pay a flat fee. And some of those other people that, like Michael Saylor or something, he's doing it on the OTC desk to save fees and they're not having to pay for stuff like that. They're just buying it directly through the exchange at a discount or whatever else. But for us, we do have the fees. It could be a little bit more expensive. And one tip that I'll just give the audience too is put in a limit order. So if it's like, oh, wow, if I get it back at this number, it will kind of cancel out that fee. So instead of putting it as a market order, put it in as a limit order and it will snag your buy if it hits that number, which it usually does because it's volatile. And then you could save yourself a little extra money. When I buy stocks now or Bitcoin or anything else, I always put in a limit order instead of a market order. And the more money you have, the more money, maybe it's just $1 or a share or whatever else, but it adds up when you have big numbers. So I always do a limit order, get a couple more dollars, on a percentage, and I'm in profit a little easier, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my DCA, that goes through at like 8 o'clock every morning, no matter
Okay.
what. So
Nice.
that's just set. It doesn't matter what the price is. It buys it for me at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. But when I do like my smash buys,
Sure.
a lot of times I will do a market order if I think it's like, when you look at the price because you get an alert that it dropped
Sure.
below a certain
Those
amount.
are the worst alerts.
Yeah. You get the buzz on your phone and it's like Bitcoin is now below 60K. I will go and I will smash buy no matter what the price because it will give me a pretty small spread. A lot of the exchanges now give you a good spread where if the price is, let's say 59,000, you'll buy it at like 59,400. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. When I'm buying like not $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, it really doesn't matter, So
Well, they make money off of that. That's
I
why
know.
they're smart. So they see that you put in a market order, and they make their little couple bucks on every one of those, as the brokerages, and that's how they make money. And I like to keep as much money as I can, but I'm totally with you. Depending on your size of your buys and maybe just your style and your time frame, you're like, oh, I'm going to be in this forever. A couple dollars ain't going to change anything.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts about the market right now? Because we already said you don't want to really dive all the way back in because of Clarity Act, but what are your thoughts? I mean, we're sitting at about 64,000 right now.
Sure.
Everyone has been talking about October low. That's when it's going to bottom out. What are your thoughts about the market? Because I'm in the camp of I still think we see a lower low this year. I don't know if we see like the 40,000 kind of call. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I find it incredibly difficult to make predictions like that because I have
Sure.
no crystal ball. And then you look like a moron. Some guy's clipping you on X that you predicted it was going to be here. And look at you, and it goes up. So I try not to do that. Even on my channel, like every day I do the daily financial news. I talk about Bitcoin, AI, stocks, and real estate. And I try to deliver the news a little less on predictions because I don't have the crystal ball. I don't know what Donald Trump is going to tweet next week or if some war is going to happen or start. So it's really hard to do that. But overall, if you watch someone like Ben Cohen or something, they talk about the 4-year cycle. They feel really strong about. If you look at the trends on the technical analysis, every 4 years it bottoms around October and then it starts to make its climb up. Maybe right now is a good time to DCA. If you believe in Bitcoin, I think it's always a good time to DCA a little bit. I'm not a smash buy guy. Obviously, if there's some huge dip, but sometimes you get really burned because you're catching a falling knife and you end up hurting yourself. So sometimes I like to see for a little stabilization, but I've paid a heavy tuition. There's times where I've made 275 grand in a day. And then there's, 6-week stretch where I lost 230. You know what I mean? So it all depends. As far as my prediction is, I would agree. The closest thing we have towards knowing what's going on is probably the 4-year cycle and it going down towards October. I don't know what the bottom is. I hope the bottom is here anytime soon so we don't have to continue to see it go down. Nothing bothers me more as a Bitcoin believer than seeing gold continue to climb. And it's just like, oh man, I could have, I don't know. It's just frustrating if you love Bitcoin like I do. And even simple things, S&P, I think that goes back to balancing your portfolio. I took chances finances. I took out my HELOC, I sold my properties, and I threw it all in Bitcoin. Now, I'll be honest, I don't do that as much. I allocate more responsibly. I got S&P, I got Bitcoin, I got Tesla, SpaceX, things of that nature. I got even cash because I'm not sure where the economy is going to go. I see that the midterms are coming. And even going back to tie it into the Clarity Act, it's very important that it becomes law because that makes it harder to change. And you need the votes in order to make it a law, and you need the votes to change the law. So right now they're short about 10 Democrats, right? They have 50 Republicans. They need 60 votes. So they need to work together a little bit. So if it does become law, that's going to be a huge deal to keep it as a law. I don't know if it's going to, and that's why it's so controversial. And that's why the midterms are important, because you change a few seats here, the president election happens, and then you have people that don't like, Gary Gensler style, that don't like crypto or specifically Bitcoin, because I don't do any other crypto. And that's scary. So I don't know. When it comes to your money, you want to be safe. Try not to live in prediction land. Try to live in a place where you're okay holding it for 4 years minimum. Like there's a 4-year cycle. So when I think of Bitcoin, I think of it in 4-year cycles, no matter what, when I'm buying. And I hope that's what viewers do. I hate to cop out the answer.
No.
A lot of it is. I just try to think logically. And that's my logic. Somebody's going to be in the comments and be like, this guy don't know anything. But that's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I love conversations.
No, that's perfectly fine. I've said multiple times on my podcast that under like $70,000, if you look at every metric, around $60,000 to $70,000 is literally like the bottom range area where it's a good value. I don't care if you don't think so, whatever. According to every person that like looks at charts, basically, it's a good value right now. Is it the absolute bottom? Who knows? No one knows. And like you said, dude, Trump could tweet out like, hey, we're bombing Iran again. Like, and then everything, tanks. But
Unpredictable, man. And I hope that doesn't happen. But going by the last almost 2 years, something's going to happen in the next 2-3 months to move the market for those that are in the know and those that don't. So just be like steadfast in your conviction is my thoughts. And if you're holding long term, you believe in it, you believe in the properties, that it's a limited supply, and that as they continue to mine it, there'll be less and less. I think you'll be safe.
Yeah, I think that one of the hardest things right now is how boring it is. Because like you said, dude, we're watching gold go up. We're watching AI stocks go up. We're watching the S&P hit new all-time highs every week. It's so hard to be all in on Bitcoin. And I keep just buying Bitcoin, but then you watch every other asset class kind of go up. It's really tough. And I think that's when people get bored of Bitcoin. They either sell it to go into a different asset class, or they stop allocating to Bitcoin and they start putting that money towards another, stock or something.
Yeah, when that last optimist leaves, though, that's normally where the bottom's at. So we still have a few people with hopium going on. And I want to even mention this, like they talk about sell the news. So Clarity Act could have a good vote when they vote on it, and it could drop immediately right after that, because that happens sometimes. Sometimes the anticipation drives up the stock, and then it happens and you sell the news. And the same thing happens in Bitcoin. You wonder why it didn't go up. I'm like, this is a good news. Sometimes good news could just hurt you in the short term, but eventually rockets up because people try to buy in and then it goes down and they're like, oh, this was a bad idea. They sell it and then it starts to shoot up right after that. And you're like, damn it. And then you end up buying higher and you get into this vicious cycle. I've paid a tuition that was very expensive to learn all this stuff. And as you do it, anybody that's new, start small and don't over leverage, and you kind of learn what you could stomach and what you can't. So volatility right now in Bitcoin is low. Sometimes that's good, man. I'm telling you, I've had some drops when it's like when it did the 120 to 110 or the 80 down to 57. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hurting. This is a terrible week. You know what I mean? You start, even when you have money in the bank, you're like, I don't know if we need that guacamole at Chipotle this week. You know what I mean? So start nickel and diming things. I get you.
That's absolutely. And it's funny because I wanted to talk to you about Saylor, but I was like, man, even when Saylor would announce that he bought, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin would drop like 2%. It was like, wait, what? How is that possible? How did Saylor buy $2 billion and Bitcoin went down when he announced it? Yeah. It's kind of weird. But I did want to talk to you about MSTR and Saylor. I know he's controversial right now. A lot of people blame him for, I don't know, I don't know. People people have a lot of different opinions about him right now. I've talked about him a decent amount on my podcast. So, what are your thoughts on MSTR, Sailor, and I don't know if you buy anything like Stretch or anything like that.
Oh yeah, so I've done that. I've lost money on Stretch. I've made money on Stretch. I've made tons of money on Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. I've lost a bunch of money in some ways too. Most recently on that when it jumped up to 190, I was like, maybe this is it. I got, because I love Bitcoin. I was so excited to see it kind of creeping back up, and then just the whole bottom dropped out. What a bummer, man. But so I've lost money and I've made tons of money on it. I actually love a lot of things about MicroStrategy in general. They have a huge amount of Bitcoin, so they're the first mover advantage. If this thing starts to rocket, that stock is going to take off more than I think some of any other stock. You know what I mean? So I think there are some huge advantages to investors. At the same time, I've been in it long enough prior to the deep dilution ATM, and I feel like he killed the momentum of the stock. I understand they talk about the convertible bonds, but I feel like he's changed the story too often for me to invest in his companies anymore. So I like to buy what he's buying. I kind of came with that mentality. It's me and these two other buddies that really love Bitcoin. And we decided, most of all, that we're going to buy what he's buying. You know what I mean? So that's what we did. We bought Bitcoin. And I'm just bummed out. I don't like the dilution. I don't like that he changes the matrix, when it's 2x MNAV, then I'm going to stop doing ATM. And then when it's 1 MNAV, I'm going to buy back the share. And then just no follow through on those things. So in my opinion, it breaks my heart to see a lot of people that have bought into him. Even people I know, I'm like, this guy is doing a lot of great things. But when they started changing the tune, I'm happy that they have a lot of Bitcoin, but I'd love the shareholders to have the value of that. And I even see now with Stretch, he's having to buy back shares. They obviously, I think Michael Saylor's company in general are really bad at stocks, like trading them, because he has been transparent. Because if you know his history, there has been some, I believe there was like accounting issues and transparency there. So he's tried to be very transparent, which I think we all appreciate. But some people are really good in the market, man. And they read that Stretch thing so well that they shorted the hell out of it. And they really hurt all the leverage traders and dropped it down from 100 to 72. And then here he is. He's got to dilute he's got to rob Peter to pay Paul, kind of, in my opinion. I don't like when he sold some Bitcoin after telling everyone, not to sell their Bitcoin, always doing a meme or something. But most of all, when he did that interview and he said, I told you not to sell your Bitcoin. I never said we weren't going to sell it. That honestly broke my heart as someone who was a big Michael Saylor fan in company. I thought that was really disheartening. And I wish there was some clarification long before that. And if you listen to earnings call, they did mention that they might sell some Bitcoin and things of that nature. So I wasn't lost on that fact that it would happen, but I was really surprised to change the tune, because when you say you're buying the top forever and then you stop buying here towards the bottom, it really hurt my heart. So I don't know what everyone else here that loves Bitcoin is. And if you're a Michael Saylor junkie, that's great. But I think the infinite flywheel works great going up, but it also hurts bad going down. And I was in it, man. I had long call options when we shot up to 540 a share. That I was just, man, I was on cloud nine, and I've been trying to chase that rush for far too long again. And it's been a rocky road, but I was able to sell a lot earlier because I looked at the technical analysis. I've even tweeted some of those buys and sells, but most recently I got my butt kicked getting back into MicroStrategy again, because I thought they were done diluting the stock personally. And then for them to just keep going, even this weekend, I'm like, man, I just feel bad for the shareholders. I have people that I care about that are still in there. And I know it could change one day. It literally could just flip in 1 week. Bitcoin rockets. And if Bitcoin rockets, that stock's going up too. So I don't feel too bad. But I don't like that they changed it. I also don't like, I know how the convertible bonds work, but I like the volatility because I would trade options to them. So it was really great. Let's say a covered call. It shoots up that day. I sell the call. It drops down a little bit. I close the call. I repeat. It was wonderful. And a lot of people did that with their long call options or maybe their cash secured puts. But now that it has kind of settled since they started closing the bonds and stopped doing it that way, which is probably better for the company overall, it just still, I just don't enjoy it. I like the volatility when it comes to trading options, but not when I'm really heavy in the stock and I'm probably over leveraged in it, not enough balance.
Yeah, no, that was well said, man. I'm on the same page as you. I think he also he didn't take it very seriously with his tweets. And
Yes.
he has, over 1 million followers. People listen to
5
him.
million, I think.
Or,
Yeah.
oh, was it 5 million? Yeah,
I think
sorry.
so.
People listen to him, right? He's
Yes.
a big influence in Bitcoin. And I remember when Bitcoin was at 120 and he said winter isn't coming back.
Yes.
Now, to me, that means we're going much higher. Bitcoin's going up to like 250, 300. Winter's not coming. We're not getting a drawback. How many people do you think bought Bitcoin that day because he posted that? I guarantee you a lot of people did. And
I
that
did too.
hurts.
I did.
Same.
Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't throw my whole savings account into it. I'm not that dumb, but
Yeah.
I buy, I'll put in whatever I can, and people listen to him. And then, like you said, we dropped down to, it was like 50 and then we bounced back up, right? We bounced back up to like 80K Bitcoin, and MSTR goes up to 180, 190 almost.
Yes.
And I was on the same page as you. I thought, holy crap, we might not have this bear market. I started buying some MSTR at like 180 and I watched it bleed, and I kept buying. I've bought it all the way down. Now my average is, I'm fine to talk about this because I don't care. My average is at like $120 now, which I think is pretty good, because I do think once Bitcoin goes back up to new all-time highs, I think MSTR has so much potential with how much Bitcoin they have to do a 3, 4, 5x, especially from like a $90 range right now. So I think anything under $100, not financial advice, is a great buy for MSTR. So I'm actually kind of buying a couple shares every once in a while to lower my cost basis. And because it's a trade for me. I don't hold MSTR because I believe in MSTR. I believe in Saylor. I'm buying it because I want the money. Like I buy Bitcoin because I'm a big believer in the sovereignty of what Bitcoin stands for, and number go up is also a nice benefit. But MSTR is a pure cash, trade for me. That's where I stand on it. And I think he hurt a lot of people when he kept saying those things, and then he would basically do a 180 and say, sorry, like I'm changing my mind without telling you. And then he would tell you after the fact. And it's like, dude, if you have 5 million followers, you have to watch what you say. If I post something dumb, it doesn't matter. He posts this AI slop stuff, and I'm like, dude, like it looks bad and it hurts people.
I bought 2,000 shares at 180 because I bought back in. I did. And it dropped immediately pretty much after that. He said, winter's over. I like to think the guy knows something, and I should have known better that he absolutely has no idea, because it completely dropped after. Now I made some money selling covered calls all the way down. I got rid of it about 130, and it still hasn't even came back to 130, sadly enough. But it is what it is. I just thought that someone with that much Bitcoin and that much invested into it, but I realized a lot of his Bitcoin now is from the shareholders, the dilution, and he was able to get a lot of it. So I still have Bitcoin, but I would have more when I had the 2,000 shares of MSTR, because I had that indirectly. And now I'm like, you know what? So I invest in other things. When Tesla bottomed right now, or in SpaceX, I was like, oh, I'm going into that. That worked out pretty good so far. It's had a nice recovery and bounce, but you just never know the future. But I think you have a responsibility. I call it a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders to not just be transparent. Well, like I said, when he said, I told you not to sell your Bitcoin, that was just like, oh, you didn't even really tell anybody to buy Bitcoin. You kind of wanted them all to buy your stock because it was a 2x play, and it's only been 2x down, not 2x up anymore. So it's disappointing. I wish the best for him and his shareholders, but I just don't trust anything he has to say. He might be a great person in real life. I'm not getting invited to the 100K party. You know what I mean? After this, but that's okay. I like to live with my conviction of who I am and what I say. So again, not financial advice, because I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not going to tell you winter is over, because I don't know when winter's coming. I'm a Game of Thrones fan. Winter's coming. You know what I mean? I just don't know when. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. And it's unfortunate. Do you plan on ever buying MSTR again, or are you completely staying away?
Man, I am tortured by the idea, because again, I like the idea. They have, almost 800,000 Bitcoin. That's a lot. That's a serious amount of coin that when this thing bananas up, which I believe it will, that it's going to move the market and his stock could really go. So I get torn between buying some long call options and I probably wouldn't buy spot anymore. You know what I mean? But I get stuck, man. I really don't know. Sometimes I'm like, well, because he could still dilute it even on a pump. If you remember back then, IBIT and Bitcoin was going up and MSTR was stuck. Like it wasn't really going up anymore. It was going down because of the dilution. So I get in that moment where I'm like, you know what? I'd rather keep my IBIT or my spot Bitcoin and just probably ride that up to the top. I like IBIT a little better than spot Bitcoin because I could sell covered call options with the shares. But so I don't have an answer to that. If it drops down to like $50 a share, I'm probably buying some long options. You know what I mean? But I don't think I'll ever buy spot again. No.
Okay. And then what about any other treasury companies? Do you ever plan on buying? Have you looked at those? Do you plan on it?
No, I have looked at all of them. You know, when you study this every day, I mean, when your whole life, I had my whole life savings into my Bitcoin when it pumped. So thank God I have found some good timing. It was very stupid. I shouldn't have did it, but it worked out. But I just always, I just get nervous. You know, I like the fact that at least MSTR had so much Bitcoin that if the price moves, it's going to go. I like the idea that there was a cult following like Elon had for Tesla. Like there was a lot of sailor lovers. I don't think there's nearly as many as there are anymore. If you look up like Polymarket or something, they have a 9% chance sailor gets arrested. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty crazy to think of a CEO like that. So I don't know. So I'm kind of stuck, but I don't really do the treasuries. I don't do those anymore now.
Okay, fair enough. I don't really. I dabbled like a tiny bit. I know a lot of people got wrecked on things like Metaplanet or 21.
Yeah.
They kind of turned into like the casino again. You know, it was like, you know, the shit coins, ICOs back in the day. Everyone meme coins. They really crashed and people lost a lot of money. So I decided to stay away for the most part, but I dabble just a tiny bit. It's like my risk portfolio. You know, you try and kind of hit a home run, try and get the 10x on some random thing every once in a while. That's kind of what I did with them, but that's about it.
I tell people to allocate responsibly, and that's from a bad example to now I am doing that well. But I think you should still have like a 5% portfolio of just like balls to the walls, trying to take a risk, living a little, feeling the adrenaline, you know, nothing that's going to hurt your mortgage or anything crazy, but have a little bit of fun money that I'm not going to sell this and I'm going to see if it goes to the top. And when you do that, you could buy some long options or some spot in something that you really believe in. Maybe there will be robots like Optimus walking around doing all the chores. Well, wouldn't it be nice to have a little bit of money set aside in there? It's just some fun money, a little bit of insurance in case it does happen. Because some people, I know some people that have Bitcoin just out of insurance. Hey, if it goes to $1 million a coin, I want to have 5. You know what I mean? So I think everyone should have a little bit of fun money set aside. Male, female, it doesn't matter. Have a little fun money. That's an investment, not just blowing it in Vegas or something, you know?
Oh yeah. No, I actually agree. I think some people, like, I think people should have essentially, yeah, like a risk portfolio, like a small percentage that they are willing to risk. Whether if they lose it, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. But if it hits, like, well, man, that could kind of help you out quite a bit. I have one. It's fun, especially when Bitcoin's boring. It's like kind of fun to have a little risk money. It keeps me sane.
Yeah, that's another thing, a whole nother episode. We talked about some allocation. You got to talk about gambling. You got to figure out if you're a gambler, be careful of doing anything like that because you're going to want to chase the rush. Even I'm not a gambler, but I still have had that experience even on the MSTR run where I'm like, I was floating those days. I made so much money. You know, a $275,000 day, like that's insane. I'm a teacher. I'm an everyday teacher. You know what I mean? That was 3 years worth of salary, you know? So, so I just think just be careful if you're a gambler, you know?
Well, yeah, because you did tweet out how money magnifies your character.
Yes.
And I do believe that heavily. I think if you're a bad person and you become wealthy, you become an even more evil person. If you're a good person, you become wealthy. I think you can do a lot of good with that wealth. So why did you tweet that? Now that we're kind of talking about it, why did you? What are your thoughts on that? On how money can change your character? And I know you're a Christian, so feel free to share some of your faith belief behind it. I've had lots of Christians on here, and I don't mind talking about it, so it's kind of cool. So how does your faith kind of tie into your character with money and investing? I mean, like I just said, if you make a lot of money, it can change who a person is. So what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'm definitely a Christian. My channel is Lead for HODL. It's leadership, faith, and finance. I told you guys I coached basketball for 20 years, a long time teacher. So leadership's a big deal. I've done taxes for 7 years. My dad owned small businesses, construction. My mom owned small businesses and auto and gas and things of that nature growing up. So leadership's important to me as a coach who's won championships, but my faith is important as well. So it's not just prayer, it's faith in believing the things you cannot see. But one of the things that I have seen as I host a small group of men over my house every week, as I try to give back to my community, is that when people tend to things start going well, especially when it comes to money, sometimes businesses start to take off. That construction company starts to take off, and sometimes the plumbing company, or sometimes your Bitcoin and something else. But I've seen it magnified. You see it in Hollywood. Look at Michael Jackson, man. I hate to say it, but you start having a never land with kids coming over to your house. Like, maybe they shouldn't be doing that, You see it all the time. And a lot of times they tweet out, "It's not my character. I want to apologize." No, if you did it, that was your character. You know what I'm saying? You made the mistake. You need to own it. I'm sorry. I want to get help. I have an issue. And I see money usually as that first indicator, especially if you're a man. A lot of men feel they're providing, of course, but they could end up losing their families because they're thinking so highly of themselves. The business is going great. I don't need to be at home. I don't need to treat my wife so well. I don't need to do this. And then guess what? The wife's filing for divorce. They're all sad and crying. And then they end up back on their knees praying humbly for the Lord to kind of redirect their life. You know what I mean? I've seen it too often, too many times in the church. And I just want to say, no matter who you are, it's going to magnify, male or female. Be humble. I tithe. You should tithe. If you don't believe in that, well, the Bible says, test me in this. If you read the scriptures, literally says, God tells you to test him in something. Can you imagine that? And anyway, so if you follow that and it can be scary. I live in California. 1 year I paid 50% taxes, 10% tithing, and 10% of my check went to my pension. So I was like, man, did I make any money this year? It was a great year, but I mean, dang, it really wasn't. But you know what? Life isn't about money. And I have someone who had 4 jobs at one point. I was teaching, I was coaching, I was doing taxes, and I was helping my dad's construction company. And I realized just how important it is to spend time with your family. That's why I don't coach anymore. I was a successful coach, still successful. They still call me coach everywhere I go. But I also care about my family, their walk with God, teaching them and modeling them how to be men. I have a daughter who's in 11th grade, teaching her how to be a great woman of God, to treat people with respect and kindness and courteousness. And so that's important to me. I think money magnifies what's going on in your heart. And I think a lot of times it's not always a mind issue, it's a heart issue, because out of the mouth, the heart speaks. So we know that a lot of people have some things in their heart that they need to clean up. A lot of times with men, it's anger. With women, it might be respecting your husband, anything like that. Men, being loving, being kind. And one thing I want people to think about as well as I'm ranting here is just, you're a lot of times in life, we're doing things for the first time. It's like the first time you were a husband or a wife, the first time you were a parent, the first time you were a parent of a 10th grader or of a 12th grader, of a 5th grade. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of first times. Hopefully by your second son or third daughter or whatever, you kind of get a little better. You know what I mean? You're more responsible with your money. You have a little bit more in the home. You're treating your wife a lot better. They don't remember all the arguments that your first kid remembers, because you're starting to be sanctified. You're starting to grow, and you're starting to make changes in your life that will reflect for generations. So faith is a big deal for me. Yeah.
No, that was really well said too, man. I think we're in a generation of, you've obviously heard the saying, like, weak men create hard times create strong men, that whole saying. I do think we're in a time period where we have a lot of weak men, and there's a lot of failure in leadership and male role models. We see that with men missing in households, not having dads around. We see that in society today. Of I think one of an extremely large TikTok account is literally a guy who shows people how to do things that their dad would have shown them, but their dad's
Right.
not around. So that's
Sure.
literally his channel, and it's so popular because young boys don't have men to look up to. And I don't know if you know this, but we're having a little girl. My wife is pregnant right now. So with our
Awesome.
first one, where our first child is going to be a little girl, and I'm like, it's already racing through my head as you were talking, like trying to be a good role model, like, a woman that, respects herself and is a believer and follows, Christ and all that. And I'm already like tongue tied of like, oh man, I don't want to mess this up. It's tough.
Oh, it is tough. And I've never been a perfect dad, so I don't want to come off across as I was. I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. I actually grew up with an alcoholic father. When he passed away at 60 years old, was about 7 years ago now. He was 25 years sober, so it was pretty awesome that he made the choice to make the change. My mom suffers from anxiety and disability, you know what I mean? So I pray for her often. But one of the things I've learned with parenting, since we're talking about that, is one, I created like an agenda. We do a family meeting every week during the school year, and we talk about different things throughout the Bible, different parts about the day. We always end with some sort of sweet treat to make sure it's fun and enjoyable, but we're intentional about our time. And one of the things that I've ever done is there's a book called Parenting with Scripture, and it's just remarkable, parenting with scripture.
I'm ready.
And I don't get nothing from it. I don't know the author, but it just it has a scripture for anger or whatever your kids might be dealing with, because you might not know how to talk to them about it, and it will give you some scenarios, how to explain, how to maybe act it out, how to walk through it. And it's made me a better parent strictly from a book like that. I know I read the Bible, but I never thought of it from that lens as a parent, and understanding how to apply all the weight of a scripture to my kids. So I mean, they're in things like Awanas and other stuff, but more than anything, family meetings and this parenting with scripture book, I always tell everyone, those changed me as a parent. Yeah. And I'm
Okay.
a teacher, you know what I mean, working with kids my whole life. And I still needed a lot of work to really understand what it meant to be with a kid all day. And they're relying on you, not just to provide, but to teach them, to provide them how to be a man or a woman in a crazy mixed up world, trying to teach you worldly values against our principles.
Yeah, it's a different world than when you grew up to when I grew up was even different. And now our kids are growing up in a completely different world with social media. From kids these days in, elementary school have iPhones, and you have no idea what they're seeing, no idea what they're looking at. But one of the things that I was concerned about is I wanted to be wealthy enough to provide for them. So, he or she, when we didn't know, would have the opportunities to try and do whatever they could or wanted to. My wife grew up on welfare. My parents were kind of lower middle class. So like I got the opportunity to go snowboarding. I competed in that. I got to go to college. I got to play sports, and, I had a lot more opportunity than my wife. And that was just a big thing for us, is having enough money to be able to provide, give her the options to do whatever she wanted to or wants to. And so that was a big thing for me. But yeah, the whole raising a child thing with social media and cell phones and all the crap out there, it scares me. And maybe, hindsight, maybe that's why we started going back to church 2 years ago. Maybe that's why I quit drinking, a year and a half ago altogether. Yeah, it's been about a year and a half. So I quit alcohol about a year and a half ago. So I don't know, maybe that was, God's plan for me. I don't know, but it's helped. Like it's helped talking about it.
Oh yeah, I quit drinking as well 2 years ago, especially because I was leading these men, and some of the men uh, have had different issues throughout their life. And one of the things I want to do is try to set the tone as a coach for 20 years. You want to be the leader. You're the first to practice, the last to leave. You're doing all the little things to make it be functional, but you're also building relationships. So one of the things I did too was with the alcohol thing, even though I've never had an issue. I didn't take my first drink though till I was 25, because my dad, I told you, was an alcoholic. So I wanted to be very careful. And, I graduated college, and I did a lot of amazing things because of God, because of the walk that I needed to take myself, falling down sometimes, and then sometimes I'm on my feet, but I'm always chasing to be better, to grow better, and to live better in everything I do. So I love hearing your story. That's great, even if we're just touching base on it right now, but I could tell you're making all the right moves and going to all the right places.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. You said your mom had anxiety.
Oh,
So that was a big thing for me too. Is I suffered from like pretty bad anxiety, and I know there's like a spectrum of anxiety for a lot of people. And sometimes it would get to that point of like panic attack where I didn't want to leave the house, vertigo type
yeah.
anxiety, where I would literally have fear in it for an entire week. Like it wouldn't just come and go. It was like I would have like the fear of like, I don't know how to describe it, like of almost death for like an entire week, and like your heart's racing, and it's awful. It's absolutely awful. So I feel for anyone that has that kind of stuff. And I know the scapegoat for a lot of people these days is, oh, I have anxiety. It's like, well, maybe, you just are kind of lazy in life and you need to go exercise and you need to like be responsible in life, because that causes anxiety too. But like when you actually have something kind of feels chemically wrong, like in your brain or something, like that's terrifying, man. It really is.
Yeah, that's my mom. She's on disability. She couldn't work anymore. She couldn't really leave the house, the whole nine. Self-care was an issue, and I don't want to throw all her business out there personally, but she did a lot of wonderful things, and I'm always praying for her. But it could be paralyzing for a lot of people, and to balance that, even as her son or as people do yourself, you got to figure out how to leave the house. Some of that is anxiety, and some of it is just natural fear of, oh, I'm starting a new job, I'm scared to go, so you got to really identify, is it a core issue? Are you really struggling, something maybe chemically or mentally that's holding you back? Or is it you need to just push through, stretch yourself, and go beyond? Even something like this video right here, like a lot of people are afraid to talk on camera, right? The number one fear is public speaking for people. I mean, number two is death. So you'd rather be given the eulogy than be in the box, or afraid of it, as Jerry Seinfeld would say. So I totally understand those things. But like, even for me, I'm a public school teacher and I run a staff fellowship. Every 2 weeks we meet as a staff and we do devotional and everything else. Well, I was afraid to do it for a few years, because I'm at a public school. But sometimes you just got to push past that and stretch yourself. And that's how I learned about real estate. That's how I learned how to be a landlord and do it myself. That's how I learned how to about Bitcoin or stocks or anything else. You just kind of push yourself, you grow. And if you have a great partner like I do and my wife, sometimes you do it together. And we partner up in so much. I could sit there and talk to her about Bitcoin. I've thrown up when it's dropped before because I had so much. When I first put in all my money, it dropped $100,000 in a week. And I threw up, man. My wife was like, remember, we're holding this long term. She had to keep me from selling it. And I'm glad she did. And she's a rock, behind the Lord. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. No, I love that. I mean, and it's a big issue for people that you get kind of in your comfort zone. I think it's really important for people to reach out of their comfort zone, because that's how you grow.
Yeah.
That's how you get stronger. If you just stay in your own little bubble all the time, everything is scary, right? You never try anything new. And so I think that's really important for people to do too. I wanted to ask you one more thing though, kind of on this topic before we close out. Since we're kind of talking about reaching out and trying new things, what kind of advice would you give for, let's say, most of my audience is age 25 to 35, I believe, is around the demographic of my following. What would you give to, someone in a younger generation demographic about success? Because you've invested in so many different things. I don't know how else to ask it. I was just, based off that, what kind of advice would you give for someone like that?
Failing to prepare is preparing to fail, they say, right? So, or plan your work and then work your plan, whatever way you want to say it. So I would give advice because I'm a high school teacher. I've done college, and I understand, as hosting men's groups and things of that nature, is that a lot of times people are going through life without a plan. They're just going day by day. They have no 1 year, 5 year, or 10-year plan. Now, plans change sometimes, but it's like me, I'm going to go drive to Florida right now, and I don't have a compass, I don't have a map, I don't have anything. I'm just going to get on the road and try to figure out. I'm going to take the streets, right? I'm not going to get there. But if I had a plan, if I had the GPS, I could save a lot of time. I'm going to jump on the 10 freeway from California to Florida, and I'm going to get there in 4 days or whatever. I'm going to stop in whatever city you want to stop in, and you're going to be there. So that's what I recommend. One, you need to have a plan. I don't know what your plan is. I don't know what your life goals are. I'd have to get to know that person, but I'd say start with getting a plan. If you don't know what your plan is, read, learn, do Audible books, different things like that. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, changed my life. You can read Dave Ramsey if you want and go safer. I have a digital product of my Masi standards. It's $10 on my link in my bio. I'm not trying to just sell that right now, but it's just the standards of what I'm telling my kids. Do this one first, this second, this third, and I have 7 of them. And that's the order, I believe, to get rich, stay rich, and be rich forever for your family. But I think that if you want to also connect to people, watch channels, mine, Lead, Pray, HODL, watch your channel. But also, if you want to make connections, try to bring something to the table. Like if you want someone to mentor you, you might want to also like, what can I bring for them? Like, what do they need? You want to figure out how to do haircuts. You might be like, hey, can I come to the barbershop and I just sweep up the hair clippings when you guys are done? I just want to learn and see what you guys are doing. And they'll be like, sure, absolutely. There's a need there. You know what I mean? So don't just ask for, hey, can I get a favor? Hey, just tell me this. No, make yourself valuable in ways you never thought you could be, and believe in yourself in a way that they might want that. They might need an assistant. They might need whatever. That's how I got my first real coaching job. I was like, could I come to practice? I went to a practice of a very elite coach. And I said, well, can I come back tomorrow and help out, whatever? And I just kept coming back for 3 weeks. And he goes, would you like to be on staff? Because I saw how well you work. And I was like, I would love to. And that really started me. And then we won championships and so on from there. But that was one of my first indicators that it's okay to have mentors, get rid of all the foolish pride that you know it all or need to know it all, and get into a community of leaders or groups. I'm in my small group. And let me tell you, most of the men come when things aren't going well. They're like, I need you. I need to be here. I'm like, you needed to be here before all this happened, because then it wouldn't have happened the way it did. Your marriage might be going better right now. You're whatever it is. So, you know what the sad part is? Sometimes they come and then they leave once the marriage is starting to go back together or whatever else it is. And then guess what? It crumbles again because they left. And that's what a lot of people do. They just want you to put a Band-Aid over it. But you don't want a Band-Aid. You want to really change your life for the better. You want to learn the right way. And I'm not saying my way is the right way, but I'm saying take what you learned from me and then make it yours. That's what great coaches do, right? You see everyone on the basketball court, they run these drills or this offense. Some team wins the national championship running a 2-3 zone. The next year, every high school is running a 2-3 zone. It happens all the time. It makes me laugh. And I coached for 20 years, so I saw it day to day. Learn from people, take the best attributes of them, and then just keep practicing. And guess what? It's okay to call them back up and do it again. If you want to pay for a mentorship, pay for a mentorship. Save yourself 10 years instead of trying to figure it out. You can watch every one of my YouTube videos, but it might be better to just get an hour with me or get an hour with Vince or whatever else. Again, I'm not selling anything that you need to do. I'm just saying these are the steps I would do. Find your plan, read and educate, self-educate yourself, and then find mentors that you could provide value for them, and then pick their brain a little bit.
Awesome, man. No, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I agree. I think having someone to look up to, a mentor of some sort. I think a lot of people are in this mentality of that they're owed something. And so I love that you brought up bring something to the table, because the amount of times if you can show up somewhere and be like, hey, I showed up to soccer practice. I'll pick up all the balls. I'll set the cones. But can I just come and watch and do that? Like, that's such a big step up than like, hey, can you tell me how to be a coach? You're not going to get anywhere. Like, you have to be open, bring something to the table. I love that, dude. That was awesome. Where can people find you if they want to check out your channel or on X, anything like that? Where do you want to direct people to find you on the internet?
Yeah, Lead, Pray, HODL here on YouTube. Like, comment, but more than anything, subscribe to the channel. I'm really trying to grow. I've only had it for about a year, and part of that time I was on vacation for 2 months in Europe with the family and wasn't able to really do my videos, but I'm here doing a daily financial news. And they also just changed kind of the algorithms or the standards. You got to get your 1,000 subs by this date and all these things. So if you got one thing of value today, I would just ask subscribe to my channel. It's free, obviously, and I appreciate anybody who watched, and I thank you. I know that time is something that cannot be recycled, so I appreciate anybody watching, taking the time.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening. Sorry for the little hiccup at about 15 minutes in where it kind of cut out and then cut back in. So thank you guys for watching through all that. Make sure to give this video a like. Go check out Nick and his channel. I'm subscribed to it. Thank you so much, man. Leave a comment below what you guys thought, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Peace.